Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you another battle report from the campaign that's been ongoing at my local game store, one of the places that I frequent, the only game in town in Somerville, New Jersey. And this is the Dark Magic in the Old World campaign. This is Scenario 4. It's called The Trickster God. And it's called that for a very good reason, which you'll find out shortly. So here's the introduction. When their expectation to reclaim the elven ruins failed to report back, the leaders of the Cursed Crusade knew that they would have to go without powerful energies that were found there. All was not lost, however, as they were now safely ensconced in the forest cavern that they had seized from the Greenskins, and had plenty of time to search for new sources of dark magic. The Crusade's necromancers could feel the growing power of the dark winds of magic, and knew that something momentous was on the horizon. It was no surprise then when the necromancer and Lich King Arkan mysteriously contacted the leaders of the Crusade, letting them know that he was close to resurrecting the greatest necromancer of all time, Nagash. In order to do so, certain sites of mystical importance would have to be secured. Arkan, offering the leaders of the Crusade high office in Nagash's new empire of undeath, should he be successfully revived, bid the Crusade to take a stone of importance to the prehistoric men of what would become the Empire. The site was an incredibly ancient menhir and a locus for shadow magic. Arkan noted that the old idol was likely to be defended with strong magic, but the leaders of the Crusade decided to assist the Lich King. If they could get into his good graces, their power would become immense should Nagash be reborn. Okay, so this is a 2,500 point game. This is my vampire counts against one of the other players, Peter and his Empire army. So there's a couple of interesting rules. First of all, from past victories, I have +1 to my invocation result based on the turn. So by 6th turn, I'm getting +6 to my invocation results in terms of how many zombies or wounds I'm restoring beyond the normal rolls. But in addition to that, there's a couple of other rules. First of all, my highest level caster is +1 to his casting result. But should I miscast, the result on the miscast table is at a -1. So there's a greater likelihood that I could get sucked into the warp. So this is a big danger. Plus, you can see from the deployment here that there's a stone in the center. And this stone affords any wizard that's within, I believe it's 6 inches or it might have been 8, the ability to cast one magic spell, one shadow magic spell, just as if they had picked it. And it's Occam's Mind Razor, which is a fantastic spell. It allows you to switch some of your stats, so depending on who it is, what army that you're casting it on, it could be tremendously beneficial. So this is something certainly I would want to take advantage of, because I'm getting the benefit of being able to switch out initiative, which is already low, and toughness. And here's the board with our deployment. But one interesting thing, we were able to pick 2 terrain pieces at our whim, and then we would roll up randomly if there was a magical effect. I had asked if I could pick a graveyard, because we're in the end times for the campaign, although we don't have a 50% rule, we haven't instituted any of that, but we're doing things that are parallel to things that are happening in end times as part of a story. And I'd asked if one of my picks could be a Garden of Moor, and the campaign director said fine, and so I went with it, and I put it. You only can put it up to 24 inches into your deployment zone. You can't put it into your opponent's deployment area or on their side of the board. But it affords huge benefits. It allows for re-rolls with certain units like Crypt Horrors of their regen roll. It gives a +1 to regen. So if you have a 5, it becomes a 4. And anybody who doesn't have any of the models that are undead that don't have regen will get a 6-up regen, which can be compounded by things like a Mortis engine, which I did bring. So you can get something like, for instance, if you 5-up regen roll for ghouls or zombies that don't have it. So this was a huge benefit for me, and I saw the deployment with a forest and also with a building, as you can see, and I figured I'll put this in the middle. This will help me control a good portion of the board because the aura of it emanates 6 inches out. But we did have another rule. There's a lot of buildings that are in the garden, and the End Times book actually describes that they can be occupied. They're actually each individual buildings, these crypts, and I didn't think it was appropriate to have like a massive army of guys deployed potentially in each one of those buildings. It just didn't seem to make sense because they're small. They're not as big as even that house that's over there, which could make sense to have 20, even 40 guys deployed in there. I figured, well, I threw out there and said, okay, you're letting me use the garden with great rules that are benefiting me. I'm fine with the idea that maybe this is just one deployable, one piece of terrain that one unit could enter, and it couldn't be occupied by another unit. And of course, my opponent had no problem with that, which I thought was very gracious of him. In any case, here's the deployment. So this is just before we rolled off for who goes first, and this is from a point of view from my side of the table. And I'm going to give you a second to try to determine what's wrong with this picture. And if you guessed that I'm on the side of the Empire army, not the VC army that I came with, you're right. Ironically, I had guessed, because we were told to bring a clearly printed out army list, which I would do anyway, and our army book. Otherwise, we forfeited the game. And we both obviously complied. And right before we were to roll, our campaign organizer said, suddenly the spirits and souls and awareness of our armies were switched out into the other armies. And we moved to the opposite sides of the table after we deployed our own army in the best way we could and picked our spells the best way we could. So now he's playing, Peter is playing my Vampire Count's army, the army that I've slaved over for over a year, converting every single model and to just the way I like it. The army that I was looking forward to playing, the army that I had been thinking about, strategy, tactics. I'm now playing an Empire army that I've never played before. And I love playing against these armies because I think they're very interesting. And he's got a great one that has an amazing Game of Thrones theme. This is the Starks. And the demis, for instance, are giant direwolves that his knights are riding, and everything is wintry and whatnot. Winter is coming, so it's a cool list, but it's also a very well done and very cool looking army. But I like my army, so I was just deflated. When we had been told that we had to put these lists clear lists, I had joked. I said, "Oh, you're going to do an army swap," and he did. So I was devastated and also thrown well off my game. Peter also was thrown off his game, but he had played at least Vampire Counts at least once before, even though it was a long time ago. I had never played Empire. I played against Empire, but it's different when you're playing the army. Okay, especially when you're just given a list and you now have to figure out strategy and spells have been picked. So all this stuff has already been done, and now you have to basically just run with it. So this is a difficult task, but you know we'll rise to the occasion and we will enjoy it. But here's a picture of my army. If there's a silver lining to this, it is that I got to actually see from a completely different vantage point, other than occasionally, taking pictures and measuring from different sides of the table. But I never get to see the army from this side. It's usually from the other side. It's a vanity picture, but it's usually when you will paint your army, you're almost painting it for your opponent as opposed to yourself, because they get to see all the coolest angles of your army while you're playing it. So this was a nice little bonus, I guess. If I had to play against my own army, at least I got to enjoy the fruits of my labor by seeing it from the best possible view. So Vanguard, he moves up my dire wolves. One of them moves into a forest, which turned out to be one of the ones that that you have to roll difficult terrain if you move in and or out of it. And the other direwolves unit is going to threaten my cannons now. And he vanguards up the Hex Wraiths right behind the building. So this was a good move because the Hex Wraiths don't really care about charging. They shouldn't get into close combat. They want to do that Soul Stride, Spirit Walk through other units, and just take, this is really devastating against heavily armored units, which I have a lot of. And so this was a pretty smart move. I'm not going to be able to really go after it in the initial turn by trying to defeat it with combat res with any charges. Certainly not close enough to do it either. But I do win first turn, which is great because now I get to do some shooting and hopefully I can try to thin out some of his units. So I move up. No charges are declared. I move up as so. A lot of my line need to try to advance, and then there's magic. I know the limitations of my army at least. I may not know the strengths necessarily of and the best way to play Empire, but I know about vampire counts, and I know that that Hex Wraith unit is a very serious threat. So I want to prevent them from moving, and if they have to move, I want them to take some damage. So I throw down Net of Amentok, and this, if they do any kind of movement, they're going to risk taking magical hits, which is something that they just do not like. So that could be very devastating for this unit. And then his unit of direwolves, having moved up, take a difficult terrain test, and they fail one, so they lose one of their dogs. And I take aim with my cannon, and I'm trying to hopefully try to snipe down his line. I do have a clear line where I can see his general and the level 1 to death. And I figured, you know what, he's going to get lookout surge, but he could fail one, and that could really be a game changer. So I shoot, and I fall short. It sticks in the mud. I suck at war machines. And then I fire off with my second cannon, trying to go after the mortis engine and the corpse cart, and I misfire. Of course I misfire. The dice know me. They know that I'm not an Empire general. So that's the end of my turn. Vampire counts turn 1, and then he moves up his my Cryptars, into the graveyard. So now, you know, they're right in the middle of that graveyard. It's the best place for these Cryptars. And then he tries to move the Hex Wraiths. I'm not really quite sure why he was looking to do that. I guess he was hoping to try to take out a few of my knights real quickly, but he braved the net, and the net paid off with dividends, because when he rolled off all the spells effects, and these are magical attacks. The Hex Wraiths are only toughness 3, and they got deleted from the board. So I'm thrilled. My Hex Wraiths are wiped out. This is the only time that I've ever been happy about that. And then he moves the dogs further up out of the forest, and they take another difficult terrain test, and now there's only 3 left, which is fine. I mean, they're not a big threat, but they're getting whittled down, and I'm pretty happy about that. He doesn't charge with the other unit of dogs, which I was surprised with. It was a fairly long charge, but they're movement 9. It really would have been just a little bit of an average, maybe above average, to actually hit the cannons this turn. So I'm happy with that. I got another turn to try and shoot those cannons off. And the rest of his moves, he moves everything up, just trying to split, I guess, his lines. There's an area between the graveyard and the house where there's a stone where the spell is, if you're within range, you can cast the Mind Razor. So he's looking, I guess, move his casters up so that he has that option. And then magic, I dispelled everything that he's got, so he had an ineffective magic phase. And then it comes back to me, Empire turn 2. So we need to do some charging. I need to go and clear some of his chaff. So the large unit of knights with a war priest in it charge his now depleted unit of dogs. I charge the unit of knights on the left-hand side with the general in it at the spirit host. I know I'm going to be able. The general has a magical weapon, but I have a banner. I have rank. I should be able to remove this from the board very quickly. And then I'll be able to swoop around on this side of the board, and I easily make it in. And then I move the rest of my units up as follows. I don't want to put the demis up there too quickly, because I know that if those demis get charged by that spirit host, they're going to be locked in there until I can get some support for them. So I'm being very conservative with the demis. I want to try and take care of that both spirit hosts first before I commit them. And just to try and chaff up, in case the spirit host tries to make it in on either of these units, I move up a detachment of archers, and then I put the halberdiers as far as I can put them, because I want to get them in that building. I figure that'll give me some defensive capability. I've got a lot of bodies. I have a caster in there. I've got a war priest, and I have the Celestial Arcanum right behind it. So magic. I try to cast Shem's Burning Gaze to deal with some of the regen. It's dispelled, but I managed to get Banishment off, which is extremely effective against undead. I target against that huge unit of Cryptars, 12 strong, and but I wasn't able to wipe away the regen, so he's able to regen a lot of the wounds that I did, and I'm only able to get 2 wounds past. So Cannon 1 fires, and again I stick in the mud. I even had guidance from my opponent who was telling me some of the thoughts on how much I should I should, and of course, he was very fair. I mean, he explained the benefits of, and I made the decision. So he wasn't, trying to play me, but of course I rolled pitifully because the cannons know I'm not their regular general. And Cannon 2 fires, and I'm looking to try and get that Mortis engine. I want it to blow up. I don't want it. I mean, it's going to help him with a lot of regen capabilities, especially units that are near the Garden of Moor. And this time, I'm able to actually hit something. So I managed to hit the fence. I don't hit the Cryptars, but I wipe out a section of the fence. Doesn't destroy the entire garden. And I was aiming for the Mortis engine, but it obviously, if it hits an obstacle like that, it destroys the obstacle, but it doesn't continue on. So his Mortis engine is safe for now. The Knights delete the remaining dogs, no surprise there. And I reform. This is a long charge if he wants to get me with these Cryptars on the other side of this. Within the graveyard, I figured, he's probably going to try it, but I'm going to make him earn it. And I figured if he fails it, I'm going to get the charge against him. And as predicted, the general and the knights on the left-hand side destroy very quickly the spirit host, and then they reform to threaten his left flank. So Vampire Count's turn 2. He charges finally the cannon with the direwolves and easily makes it. And then he tries the long charge with the Cryptars against the knights on my right, and he makes it in. So this is going to be a tough fight, but I have a lot of knights and I have really good armor, and despite the fact that he has tons of attacks, his poison is only at strength 4. So I'm a armor save of 1+, so I'm going to be going a 2+. It's going to be hard for him to get in through my armor. So I'm pretty confident that I could whittle him down, or at least hold him up here until I can get some reinforcements or some magic to help me out. And remaining moves, he moves again. He's looking to split the corpse cart and his bunker unit on either side of that obelisk, and he moves the rest of his units up as so. And then he sends his Spirit Host to chaff up my general. I mean, the Spirit Host is not going to survive against a charge, but it's going to prevent me from getting in that charge on the ghouls, and that's a horde of ghouls, 40 ghouls. So he'll be able to countercharge if I go in there, but I got to clear the chaff. And magic. He casts a number of invocations and grows a ton of zombies beyond the starting point of either of these units. And he tries to raise dead, so that's a brand new unit of zombies that he's going to try to use to further chaff me up. And this cast is only a small template, so maybe loses a few zombies. Not terribly effective. Not the getting sucked into the work that I was hoping, but he does take 1 wound on the level 4. The white primed model is the level 4, not the general. And the dogs wipe out the cannon crew in 1 turn. They're strength 4 on the charge with enough attacks. I mean, 4 attacks, but he managed to wound properly on all of them. So there's -1 cannon. And he reforms towards the center of the board. So we must be playing with foam weapons here, because the Cryptars are only able to do 1 wound to the knights. I wasn't able to do any wounds on him, which is unfortunate. I couldn't get past the regen, which was also a reroll because he's within range of the garden, but he only took off 1 knight, so I'm pretty happy with that. So, Empire turn 3. So I need to slow down that unit of zombies that's behind the building. I don't want them going in, and I know that I want to clear this room for potential charges against the Spirit Host and the zombies that he had raised, and my demigriffs can't get around this unit of archers, so I didn't want to just throw the unit out there, but I knew if I charged I was automatically going to fail because they can't fit between the unit of zombies and the building. So it's going to be a failed charge, but it would provide me enough room that I would be able to get the demis in on the recently raised zombies. And exactly what I thought would happen happened. Failed charge, but see, it cleared that whole lane there, and then I moved the zombies, and then I moved the demis in, which they make very easily. So the volley gun is not in range of anything. There's no targets. He hasn't been moving up as aggressively as I was expecting that he might. So I'm not going to be able to get a shot off with the volley gun. So, and being on the hill is not really helping me terribly. So I just move it up. Then I move my halberdiers into the building. I figure if he's going to assault the building, I'm going to have some protection. I've got a large unit here. I should be able to hold out for a good long time. Plus, I'll be able to cast. I have my level 4 in there. And magic, I get off Shem's again, but this time I put it on the Mortis engine. And I managed to pluck off only 3 wounds, but that's okay. It's wounded. He might, hopefully, he won't be able to heal this back up with successful castings on his turn. But there's only 5 wounds, and if it gets destroyed, it blows up, and that could be pretty devastating. So I aim my cannon at the corpse cart. I can just see it, as you can see, just in the top kind of rightish corner. You can see that little yellowish base. That's the resin base I have for the corpse cart. I want to get rid of that corpse cart because any augments will not give any units within 6 inches always strike first, and I don't want that. So I go and I shoot, and of course, what do you think happens? I misfire again. So my general in close combat pops the spirit host as expected, and the rest of the zombies, as expected, get destroyed due to crumble from the demigryphs, and I reposition as so. I know I'm going to get charged by those ghouls, but I'm pretty confident that I can take them on, especially with both of these units, because now his ethereals are all gone. So the knights and the crypt horrors, again, I can't get any wounds past that re-rolling 4-up regen because he's right next to the graveyard, and I lose another knight. So I'm getting whittled down slowly. Vampire counts turn 3. He charges, does a long charge with the dire wolves, and of course he makes it. And then he charges in with the horde of ghouls as expected and makes it in easily. He charged with the bunker with the level 4, the level 3, and the White King, and just a decent sized group of zombies. It's probably about 30 plus zombies in there against the detachment that I have with the level 2, and this is my level 2 with Shem's Burning Gaze. I'm not having any of that. I flee immediately. So the zombies that were behind the building, instead of going after the halberdier unit that's in the building, decide just to reform. Now there's a wraith in there and a level 1 death necro, and then the corpse cart and the mortis engine, they move up. And magic, I dispel his attempt to cast Van Hels, but he gets another raised dead off, and he throws another unit of zombies up there, and he chaffs up my my demis again. And close combat, the War Priest and one more knight are cut down. I break. Again, I'm away from the general, I'm away from the BSB. He pursues with the dogs, and the dogs run down, 7 or 8 knights, which is just amazing, but that's the way the game works, and his crypt horrors reform. So the ghouls do a ton of attacks, and they get tons of poisons, but they're only strength 3. But I win the combat. I delete more than an entire row of ghouls, and with crumble, but he sticks, and now he's locked up my general and some of my knights. Empire turn 4, the demis charge into the newly raised unit of zombies. So I decide to charge in with my Celestial Hurricanum into the flank of his bunker. Now, he was surprised at this, and this may or may not have been such a great idea, but the thought process I had is, I'm going to flank. I'm not going to remove his Steadfast. He's got a Battle Standard Bearer and a Standard in there. But if I can remove and delete enough of these zombies, and maybe I can actually, take out one of his casters even, or even the entire unit. But if I'm lucky enough, maybe I can actually remove enough of these guys that I can follow up with some other charges or some magic, and he won't be able to get Lookout Sirs. So the Archer detachment moves up and chaffs the zombie unit that has the level 1 Death Necro and the Cairn Wraith. And the detachment that had fled the previous turn with my level 2 Wizard that has the Shem's Burning Gaze continues to flee, and they're right near the table edge. So if they don't rally next turn, I'm going to lose them. Magic. I managed to get Banishment off on the Mortis engine, and it explodes. It only had 2 wounds left, and this is turn 4, so it's going to do a good amount of damage. If you don't know the rules on Mortis engines, when they pop, I believe it's 12 inches plus the turn number in range all around it, which is a huge blast radius, but the strength hit is equal to the turn number. So you want it, if this thing's going to blow up, you want it to be later in the game, and you want it to be near your enemy's units. So this is turn 4, so strength 4 hit, and it's 2d6 for every unit in range, which is going to hurt me a little bit too, but it's going to hurt him a lot. So the corpse cart takes 3 wounds, I lose a few halberdiers, no big deal. I take 2 wounds on the Hurricanum. He loses a bunch of zombies in both these units, which I'll take. Again, I want to try and delete these units. The only way to do that is to put a hurting on as many zombies as possible. But now he's gone. He's down 1 mortis engine, and that should be a big deal. Long range shot through my unit, so really hit my ballistic skill terribly, but I wouldn't even be able to even try it if I just sat this volley gun up on the hill and didn't even try to move it forward previous turn. But it's ineffective. So I get another misfire with the cannon. Again, these cannons, they know I'm not their owner. So despite him losing a bunch of zombies, his static combat res from having ranks, banner, or whatnot wins out, and there's no wounds that are done back to me, but he's able to face me and reform. But again, I managed to take out I believe about 15 zombies. And the demis rock the zombies, but one survives after crumble. Again, say what you want about zombies. They're one of the worst units in the game statistic-wise, but with the crumbling effect, you can have a ton of them at relatively cheap points, and if you don't remove them, one zombie can hold up a huge unit, and that is what happened here. So the ghouls go to town again on my knights and my general's unit, and it's just too many with even, he gets lots of poisons, and I roll lots of 1s, so I lose another 4 knights. So vampire counts turn 4, the crypt horrors move up, and the wounded corpse cart moves to a point where I can't exit the building from that side. So he's trying to just limit the avenues of where I can redeploy them if I move out of the building. And as I mentioned earlier, any wizards that are within 6 inches of this stone are able to cast the Mind Razor spell. But this is great for him because now he's, I believe, at Strength 5, which is going to be a further problem, reducing my armor saves. And I focused the Hurricanum attacks on his level 4, hoping to try and finish it off. He's only got 3 wounds and no save, and I only do 2 wounds. So a hugely missed opportunity to try and take a good chunk of points off the board and a lot of his casting power. So Mind Razor really was a huge and very smart move by my opponent. His ghouls now at a higher strength are able to delete the remainder of these knights. Only my general remains, but he sticks. And the demis kill the last of those zombies, and then they reform. So Empire turn 5. I am charging in. I can just make it between the archer detachment and the general. So I need to get some help from my general. I can't lose my general. So I make that charge. And yes, the archer detachment with my level 2 wizard rallies. And I move my halberdiers out of the unit. So they're facing to the lower right. I didn't move all of them because there's just a lot of them. But they were able to fit, and I want to put them where they could potentially receive. I had no other options, so I want to be able to potentially receive a charge from his crypt horrors in my frontage. And magic, I managed to get Gem's Burning Gaze off on his crypt horrors, which removes their regen, and I not only delete 2 of these crypt horrors, but I also do a wound on 3rd. So that's pretty good. And I need to try and protect my my Hurricanum, but I also want to try and take out his wizard. If I lose the Hurricanum, I at least want to take out what's potentially about like a 300 or 400 point wizard. So I cast Time Warp, and that allows me to get an extra attack, and I get Always Strike first. So that's a big deal. If I can just do 1 wound to this wizard, then it'll be worth it losing the Hurricanum. And then I cast Banishment, and it's a miscast. But I finish off another one of the Crypt Horrors. But for my trouble, I lose like 8 Halberdiers, and I think that's worth the risk. At least my wizard, my level 4, didn't get sucked into the warp. And I aim my volley gun at the Crypt Horrors to try and further remove them. And what do you think I got? Another misfire. And I only needed the one wound to finish off that Necro. And even though the Hurricanum had an extra attack beyond, and I put all those attacks on his level 4, who had no defenses, I flub. And static combat res breaks me, and I think he did 1 wound to me. And I flee I break from combat, and he opts not to pursue. So the Harkonnen bounces through the Halberdier unit. They don't panic, and I move off to the other side, which is good because now I'm out of charge range for the Harkonnen by either this zombie unit or by the Cryptars. So the Harkonnen has a chance to rally because he's in range not only of the general but of the BSB. So the ghouls with Mind Razor only do 1 wound to the sole demi that's actually bordering them, and none to the general, which is great. And even though he's got Mind Razor and he's actually attacking at a higher strength, and I rip up a whole bunch of ghouls. But even with Crumble, there's still plenty left. And I reform because I won the combat my demis so that I move 1 that was not in combat into the second row, and he'll be able to now get some extra attacks, which will help me finish off this ghoul unit. And Vampire Count's turn 5, he charges the Cryptars into the Halberdiers. It's a pretty long charge, but of course my opponent's dice are hot today, and he makes it in, no problem. And he moves his dog unit to threaten either the detachment with the level 2 or the volley gun. And magic, he gets off Van Hels on the Cryptars, as if they needed anything more to be a threat to this Halberdier unit. So now he's going to get rerolls to hit. So he manages to get, again, Mind Razor on the ghouls. It's been working for him so far, he might as well keep trying it. So the Cryptars kill the priest in the Halberdiers unit. They take out 5 more Halberdiers. They put 2 wounds on the level 4. He regens everything that I throw back at him, and of course, this sucks. But I managed to stick because I'm steadfast. So the general and the demis finally finish off the last of the ghouls, and I don't take any wounds back. So I reform, try and threaten the rear of the zombies on the other side of the building. And Empire turn 6. So this is the opposite side of the table from my opponent's vantage point, where I usually run my army from. So I think I have a pretty good opportunity here. If I can destroy this zombie unit, I can actually swing around, take out that corpse cart, and maybe get from the rear, I can get his bunker unit of zombies or potentially the Cryptars, and I make it in easily. So the Harkonnen rallies, which is exactly what I was hoping, and my detachment unit moves up. I wanted to get the level 2 caster within range to use his Shem's Burning Gaze, as well as get a little bit closer with the archers on the dogs. And I get Shem's Burning Gaze off on the corpse cart, finish off the last wound. Goodbye, corpse cart, I need the points. And then I shoot the dire wolves and only pluck off 1 with the archers. So, magic. I'd cast Speed of Light on the halberds previously to try and keep the few that were remaining alive, because a lot of this unit's been heavily depleted. He's going to have to roll 5s to hit me, because I'm now weapon skill 10. And it doesn't matter. I try to keep them alive, but I still lose a whole bunch of the halberdiers, and I lose my level 4, which really sucks. So now I'm at a disadvantage in terms of casting. I only have a level 2 left, and he's got a level 3 and a level 4. And on the opposite side of the table, as I expected, I challenge the Karen Wraith, kill it. I crumble a ton of his zombies, but 1 remains. And that's all you need, which just sucks, because I'm not able to finish off the level 1 to Necro that has death, and that could become a problem. So Vampire Count's turn 6. His dogs charge into my detachment with my level 2, my last remaining caster, my level 2. And I can't stop him from invoking, so he had 1 zombie left, and he raises back an additional 16. And his Cryptars also were in range, so now they're back at full strength. And then he casts another invocation. I can't stop him. I don't have any. I have a level 2. And he gets another 10 zombies. So my thoughts of potentially picking up the Necro and then this entire zombie unit are gone. It's not a lot of points, but I need all I can get. And he miscasts Van Hel's Dance. So my hope for him getting sucked into the warp is back, as if he needed his Cryptars to be souped up again. And the detonation removes a handful of zombies. Not a big deal. I think he takes a wound on his general as well. And the Cryptars finish off the Halberdiers. So, points. And this is the final board which results in a Vampire Counts victory by about 200 points. It was roughly about 1,500 to 1,300, but a really good game by my opponent. We both were in similar scenarios where we were playing armies we weren't expecting, with strategies that we didn't have prepared. He made a lot of very smart moves and was able to minimize my capabilities, and I rolled horribly and made some very poor moves, and of course lost by 200 points. So if anybody ever gets the notion that they might want to run a campaign, don't do an army swap. We work very hard to paint up our armies and convert them, and we want to play them. But this still turned out to be a whole lot of fun, and I had a great time. My opponent was awesome. He was very gentle and careful with my minis, as was I with his, and it turned out to be a very close game. So the next game in this series is the finale, and we're going to be doing that in another week after Halloween, and this is going to be all 4 people doing a Triumph and Treachery game, which I like, but I don't like. I mean, I prefer the standard Warhammer game, but this is going to be really interesting. We have a lot of interesting rules that we've secretly been given each of the generals. So it's going to be Orcs and Goblins, Demons of Slaanesh, this Empire army, and my Vampire Counts. And we're going to have some end time stuff that's going to kick in, and some guest appearances. It should be very interesting, and we'll see how it turns out on my next battle report. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this stuff, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you come back for more. Have a great day.